If you found a deserted island in the middle of the ocean, what would you want on it? Buried treasure? A secret volcano lair? How about millions of pounds of solid bird poop? Believe it or not, back in 1856, the United States passed an actual law called the Guano Islands Act. It said that if an American citizen found an unclaimed, unoccupied island containing seabird poop, which is called guano, the United States could treat it as an American possession. The president could even send in land or naval forces to protect the discoverer's rights to the guano. Why on earth were countries competing over bird droppings? Because of one magical, essential ingredient hidden inside: nitrogen. Here's the deal. All living things, including you, your pet dog, and every plant on Earth, need nitrogen to survive. It is a fundamental building block of our DNA and our muscles. We get our nitrogen by eating food, but plants normally absorb usable nitrogen compounds from the soil. If farmers grow crops on the same dirt year after year, the plants remove nitrogen from the ground. Eventually, the crops can turn yellow and produce much smaller harvests. For centuries, farmers replaced nitrogen in several ways, including manure, guano, compost, crop rotation, and nitrogen-fixing plants such as peas and beans. But by the year 1900, the richest guano deposits were being depleted. Other natural nitrate supplies were finite, and some experts warned that the growing population could face serious food shortages without a new source of nitrogen fertilizer. Now you might be thinking, wait a second. Take a deep breath in and let it out. 78% of the air you just breathed is nitrogen gas. We are literally swimming in an invisible ocean of nitrogen. Why couldn't the plants just use that? Because atmospheric nitrogen is super stubborn. It comes in pairs, two nitrogen atoms locked together by a super strong chemical bond called a triple bond. It is like two Lego bricks super glued together. Most plants simply cannot pull them apart. Humanity desperately needed a chemistry hero who could break that bond and pull fertilizer out of thin air. Enter a German chemist named Fritz Haber. In 1909, Haber looked at that incredibly strong nitrogen bond and said, "I can crack that." Working with a young British chemist named Robert Lee Rossignol, Haber built a reinforced metal apparatus in his laboratory. He realized that if you take nitrogen gas and hydrogen gas, squeeze them together under intense pressure, roughly 200 times the normal pressure of our atmosphere, and heat them over a special metal catalyst, the catalyst helps separate the nitrogen atoms so they can react with hydrogen. Out of a tiny tube in his lab came liquid ammonia. He had actually done it. A massive chemical company called BASF took Haber and Le Rossignol's laboratory process, and thanks to a brilliant engineer named Carl Bosch and a large industrial team, built giant factories to perform it on a huge scale by 1913. This became known as the Haber-Bosch process. Today, synthetic fertilizer produced through this basic process helps grow enough food to support nearly half of all the people on Earth. Look around a room of 4 people. Statistically, the modern food supply supporting roughly 2 of them depends on synthetic nitrogen fertilizer. Scientists have also estimated that in a person living in a developed country, about half of the nitrogen atoms in the body may once have passed through an ammonia factory. Haber's discovery helped transform global agriculture and support billions of lives, right? Yeah, about that. This is where Fritz Haber becomes one of the most paradoxical and tragic figures in history. Because chemistry is a double-edged sword. Ammonia can be converted into nitric acid and then into nitrogen compounds used to manufacture explosives. During an explosion, atoms rapidly rearrange into new, more stable molecules, releasing enormous heat and producing rapidly expanding gases. When World War I broke out in 1914, Haber was a fierce German patriot. He wanted his country to win, so he put his scientific knowledge to work for the military. The Haber-Bosch process gave blockaded Germany a domestic source of fixed nitrogen for both fertilizer and ammunition. But he did not stop there. Haber believed that heavier-than-air poisonous gases could force enemy soldiers out of their fortified trenches, breaking the bloody deadlock of the war. In April 1915, at the Second Battle of Ypres, Haber helped organize and personally supervised the release of chlorine from thousands of pressurized cylinders across the battlefield. The effects were catastrophic. Max Planck historical researchers report that the attack killed at least 1,000 people and injured approximately 4,000. It also helped launch a chemical weapons arms race. By the end of World War I, chemical weapons used by all sides had caused roughly 1.3 million casualties and more than 90,000 deaths. Haber's scientific authority and leadership had helped make large-scale chemical warfare a reality. When the war ended, Germany was buried under crushing financial debt. Operating under the belief that science could solve almost any problem, Haber came up with a wild, secret scheme. He began researching whether dissolved gold could be extracted directly from seawater to help Germany pay its war reparations. There really is gold in the ocean, and Haber spent several years analyzing seawater and participating in research voyages. But eventually, he discovered that the earlier measurements he had relied upon were far too high. The true concentration was so tiny that extracting the gold would cost much more than the gold was worth. He abandoned the project. When Fritz Haber received the 1918 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, awarded in 1919, the decision caused deep controversy. How could the man whose discovery helped feed the world also be a leading architect of chemical warfare? Fritz Haber's story leaves us with the ultimate cautionary tale about modern science. Scientific genius is like a superpower. A hammer can be used to build a warm, comfortable house, or it can be used to shatter a window. The chemistry itself is neither good nor evil. It is simply knowledge. It is entirely up to us, the human beings holding the tools, to decide whether we use our science to cultivate the earth or engineer its destruction.